Hello, my name is Samuel Anderson, and today I will be going over a part of the technological world that has been stirring with controversy since its creation. That creation being data mining. I want to take this time to dive into what exactly data mining is, what is good about it, but also what's bad about it. It is important to look at this through the view of many different ethical perspectives in order to get a deeper understanding about the ethical dilemma that it brings along with it. That being said, let's jump right into it. Data mining. You've more than likely heard of this term before, possibly in the news or just in daily life. If you're unfamiliar with the topic, put simply, it is the process of solving various problems through the use of data sets. In the business world, it is used to predict future trends and make more informed business decisions. The data collected can help with things from marketing and advertising to things such as manufacturing and management. It shows up in the medical field as well, as looking at past trends can help doctors make more informed decisions about current issues. Data mining first showed its head in the late 60s, but continues to grow as new technologies get implemented. As time goes on, the ways of collecting data, especially with the rise of artificial intelligence, collecting and analyzing data has become much more automated. When it comes to data mining, it boils down to three basic steps. The first one being collection, then analysis, and finally deployment. In the first step, raw data is collected in various different ways, which include, but are not limited to, transactional data, which is information generated from day-to-day transactions such as sales records, financial transactions, and online purchases. Customer data, which is data about customers, including demographics information, purchasing behavior, preferences, and interactions with the company or organization. Web data, which is data collected from websites, social media platforms, blogs, forums, and other online sources. Sensor data, which collects data from various sensors such as temperatures, GPSs, smart meters, and wearable devices like Apple Watches. And the last one being text data, which is unstructured textual data from sources such as emails, documents, social media posts, etc. Then, after the data gets collected, it goes into the analysis stage, which is where the data undergoes analysis, put simply. This includes data pre-processing, which involves cleaning and transforming the data. Feature engineering, which involves creating new features or transforming existing ones to improve the performance of data mining itself. Model selection, which is choosing the appropriate data mining algorithm or model depending on the nature of the data. Model evaluation, and finally, the interpretation and visualization. The final step is deployment, which after the data is analyzed, it can be integrated into a model where it can be applied to real-world data. Another main way in which data can be deployed is in the business process, which helps businesses make informed decisions based on the trends of data collected. Finally, it is important to note that in the process of deployment, ensuring proper governance and compliance with regulations and organizational policies is critical when deploying data mining models, especially when handling sensitive or personal information. Now that you know more about data mining and the different steps that it has, let's dive into what good it can bring into the world. When it comes to data mining, there are many benefits that it can bring to the table as it covers such a wide range of information. The main place that the effects of data mining shows is in the business world, as it is often used for various things, whether it be improving marketing/sales or improving one's customer service. It allows for things not seen by the human eye to be picked up by large amounts of data and the trends that come along with it. Besides just the benefits that it can bring to a business, it can also help with weather forecasting, surveillance, medical research, and even stock market analysis. It is also important to mention that data mining is used for so much more than I've talked about, but I just focused on the main ones that I thought were most important and relevant to today's world. There is data everywhere. With that being said, having lots of data allows for trends to be seen and thus acted upon for the overall improvement of various things. Now, with the good also comes the bad. When it comes to data being collected, there is some which can be personal to a specific user. For example, when you sign up for a website and you enter various personal information, such as your phone number, email address, etc. There are other times when you use personal information on websites, but this includes some of the most common things that you would type into a website. There are two kinds of thought when it comes to the bad things that can be done with your personal information. One major issue with this is that some companies don't have good enough protection over users' personal information and leaves it vulnerable to cyber attacks. Nothing that the company does directly with the data, but the data stored falls into the wrong hands. Another issue is how the companies are using the user's personal information. They may say that they are using the information to improve a user's experience, but then they go and sell the data without knowing the intentions of who they are selling it to. Many people wouldn't be comfortable with their personal information going into the hands of somebody that they do not trust. One clip that I find quite interesting on the topic of the world having personal information took place during a Facebook hearing and put the owner of Facebook in an uneasy position. Take a look.
Next up, Senator Durbin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Zuckerberg, would you be comfortable sharing with us the name of the hotel you stayed in last night?
No.
If you've messaged anybody this week, would you share with us the names of the people you've messaged?
Senator, no, I would probably not choose to do that publicly here.
I think that may be what this is all about.
As you can see by the uncomfortable way that Zuckerberg answered those questions, you can see just how the whole population might feel about having others have access to their personal information. This is an example of how companies selling their information to other people can create an untrustworthy environment between user and the company. On the other side of personal information getting leaked, this hits quite close to home. August 2023, the University of Michigan detected suspicious activity on their network. After an investigation, it was found that information such as some students' social security number, driver's license, or other government-issued ID number, financial account, or payment card number, and/or health information has been obtained. Just an example of even the companies that you trust can lose your information to those who are not supposed to have it. Now, this poses some questions. What is to be done about these cyber attacks, and who is to be held responsible? This is where the ethical dilemma comes into play. There's always going to be data gathering going on, whether it be from text message threads or information you put into a website to sign up for the new hottest deals. And it's hard to avoid giving data to the system, per se. The important thing to think about here is how the data is said it's going to be used, and then how it is actually used. For example, a company gathers a user's phone number and name for security purposes. They then turn around and sell that information to another company for whatever reason. This is a violation of privacy, as the company is not fully transparent with the user. Seems as if there needs to be stronger regulations in place to fully protect the user. Still on the same topic, it is also important to consider the protection of the data that is being collected, as cyber attacks happen frequently. With so much data being stored all in one place, it's easy to get access to such large amounts of data. And there appears to be this gray area, as sometimes getting the data isn't the most ethical, but in certain cases, the outcome can have a positive effect. There are different ways of deciphering what the good is and what the bad is. It is important to look at who is affected by both the action and the consequence from different points of view. In the case of data mining, a deontological approach would take into consideration what is good about it and then what is bad about it. For example, a company buying personal information which is said to be bad to find trends in life-threatening diseases from previous cases, which is said to be good. According to Burton, one must look at the negatives, even in situations in which the consequences of an action are understood to be desirable or good. What this means is that even if said outcome has amazing positives, it is still vital to consider what was at cost. However, it can vary from case to case. One might argue that companies using personal information to target better ads towards you is not a good use of the data. Another might say that using their personal data in order to help save the lives of others would be a very good use of the data. While in both cases, it is a user's data being used without their consent, one consequence is better than the other, and thus might be able to overrule the negatives that come along with it. There are many different scenarios that could play out, but it is important to consider the action and the consequence, and the magnitude of each to figure out if said situation is worth it. Another way to look at this ethical dilemma would be by taking a communitarian approach, which would look at how the data being collected affects the community more than just the individual person. When it comes to data mining, a lot of the times there's a lot of individual data being collected and pulled together to make a community of data, and more often than not, being used to help better said community. Like the previous example of buying personal information to find trends in life-threatening diseases, there would be more emphasis on the fact that the community is benefiting from data mining, even though some individuals are having their data used in an unethical way. According to Burton, communities exist prior to an individual born and raised within them. I take this as, without the community, there would be no individuals, thus the community takes precedence, and because the farming of the data is being used for the good of the community, it outweighs the sometimes shady way of retrieving it. It is important to point out, though, that a communitarian would want to make sure that no one person benefits more than the other, as that would make the situation less impactful to the community and more to said individuals. No one person should be giving up any less than the other. Similar to the deontological point of view, it still does vary from situation to situation, but in these terms, it seems that if the community is overall benefiting, it might be something that is to be done more in the future. One more way to look at this ethical scenario would be taking a utilitarianism approach, which would focus more on the outcome of the data mining rather than how the data was acquired. Important to see that utilitarians would look at data mining from the potential to create positive outcomes such as improvements in healthcare. Not to say that one wouldn't look at how the data is retrieved, but they tend to have more of a focus on the consequence rather than the outcome. When it comes to the rules placed on how data is obtained, one should follow the rules that are going to bring the most good, says Burton. In this case, if having less rules on how one gets the data better improves the healthcare system, it might be worth it. Some may consider that the stealing or buying of user data without their consent is bad, but the fact that it can bring so much good to the world can outweigh the harm that it may cause to the users that had their data used. Still want to minimize the harm brought about by data mining, but in certain cases, it is overlooked as it brings about such positive outcomes. In the case of data mining, it is seen that the outcomes can have such positive impact on not only individuals, but also businesses, that there seems to be an argument leaning in the direction that it is indeed ethical. Now, it is hard to fully label something as ethical, especially with data mining, because there are so many moving parts, so it's important to look at each case differently. You cannot take the same approach when it comes to every problem in the field of data mining. Now, what is the future to hold for the world of data mining as it grows even larger? What is to be done to stop the misuse of gathered data? With the rise of artificial intelligence, it is proven to show just how much of an impact it is having on data mining. The process is going to get to a point where there isn't going to be much need for human intervention. This raises the question of, if there are no humans getting access to your data and it is all through machine learning, what is the harm it is doing? If there's nothing but good being brought from the data, is there even an argument of why it is still unethical? Now, there is still the threat of cyber attacks, but in the future, it is important to make sure the security is even stronger because we are having so much more data that is going to be stored. Think 20 years from now, how much more data there is going to be and how much better the machines are going to be at being able to learn from the data. This could revolutionize the way we live. But as better technology comes up, it is important to also review the laws that are in place to regulate companies. It is important to make sure that no one takes advantage and that the data is being used for solely good purposes. Now, what I make of all this is that it is important to look at data mining from a larger lens rather than just from an individual's point of view. It is easy to get caught up in the small stuff and not realize just how impactful the use of data can be when there's enough of it. I do feel that there needs to be stricter regulations put into place when it comes to where the information is stored and how, when hacked, there's so much volume that can be stolen. I think it might be important to kind of split up said information in order, in case of a cyber attack, not all of the information and personal data can get stolen in one single attack. I feel like with time, security will get better and might not be something that will be such a worry in the near future. When it comes to the good, I do think it outweighs the negatives, as it has been apparent just how much it has caused growth in healthcare, economics, and so much more. With that being said, I also think there is no exact clear answer. There's just so much depending on how the data is gathered and then what it is used for. Important to look at case to case to see whether or not said action is worth the outcome that it brings along with it. You need to take different viewpoints in each scenario. To kind of wrap things up, I think there needs to be some sort of compromise in place in order to make both parties happy. What has been made apparent is that there is no clear-cut answer to whether or not the illicit use of personal information for majority benefit is worth it. Current laws and regulations seem to be a little hazy when it comes to just who is allowed to access the information. I think in order to help with the concerns with data mining, that there be stronger enforcement of security of personal information that is constantly being updated as time goes on and cyber attacks get more advanced. Companies need to be held accountable for the lack of transparency they have with their customers, as to not make them feel that they are being taken advantage of. No need for there to be a clear winner, just a world in which both parties feel as if they are being looked after. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of ethical dilemmas surrounding data mining. I hope our discussion has provided valuable insights into this complex issue. Thank you again.